Welcome Kasturians. In this video, we will discuss chapter 4 of class 12th history, that is thinkers, beliefs and buildings. So let's start. In this chapter, we have to study about the cultural developments that took place due to different philosophers and thinkers in a period of spread over thousands years, that is 600 BCE to 600 CE. So the cultural developments that took place from 600 BCE to 600 CE, before that we will have a glimpse to Sanchi the stupa. It is one of the most wonderful ancient buildings which is in the state of Madhya Pradesh near Bhopal. It is basically a small village that is called Kanakhera near the brow of a hill, and this place is some 20 miles away from Bhopal. This Sanchi is actually a Buddhist stupa which was constructed originally during Ashoka's rule. As we know, Ashoka the Great, that is Piyadasi, also referred to as Piyadasi, about which we have heard and discussed in the previous chapter also. So that Piyadasi or Emperor Asoka, he was a great patron of Buddhism. So this stupa is believed to be constructed by Ashoka in praise of Buddhism. So it's a Buddhist stupa. It was basically in the year 272 BCE that Asoka was declared officially as a king. Then in 269 BCE, that is before the Common Era, this structure started to be built. And in the 19th century, when some French people and Englishmen, they tried to take away some of the buildings or some of the pieces of this stupa to be kept in the museums in their respective countries, it was the rulers of Bhopal, that is Shahjahan Begum, and her successor, that is Sultan Jahan Begum. They stopped and they prevented the English and the French from doing so, and it is believed that they funded the preservation of this stupa or the ancient structure. The French and European scholars, they were interested to take the stupa and its remains to their respective countries. They wanted to take the eastern gateway in fact and send it to French museum, but some sort of intentions when shown by Britishers also, it evoked the feeling in the rulers of Bhopal, that is Shahjahan Begum and then Sultan Jahan Begum, her successor, and they funded the construction of a guest house and museum at Sanchi. Why? For Sir John Marshall. He stayed at Sanchi and he prepared a volume which he dedicated to Sultan Jahan Begum because of her contribution in preserving the stupa and also allowing space as well as constructing a guest house for Sir John Marshall to stay at Sanchi and write the volumes. So it was quite lucky that the stupa had escaped from the eyes of the railway contractors also. This means that it was the railway contractors who wanted to construct the railway line from that area in which the stupa is situated, but somehow it was managed that the railway contractors, they changed the path and the stupa was preserved in the original position and the original structure was preserved as what we see today. The mid first millennium BCE, it is actually considered as the most important era and the turning point in the world history. Why? Because the thinkers such as Zarathustra in Iran, Kong Bi in China, In fact, in Greece, you know, Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. In India, it was thinkers like Mahavira and Lord Buddha. They all emerged and they gave their ideas and they tried to understand the mysteries of existence, and they explained the relationship between the human beings and the cosmic order. Cosmic, that is the world which is lying outside our known world. So this relationship of the humans with the cosmic world, they tried to explain this using by putting forward different types of theories which they knew and they formulated. And it was also the time when new kings and kingdoms they were arising. So these thinkers, some of these thinkers, they tried to attempt and understand these developments. Now we will see the sacrificial traditions. In this we have the sacrifices which were performed collectively, that is from 1000 to 1500 500 BCE. These sacrifices, when they were performed collectively, and sometimes they were performed by the heads of the households. It was after this 1000 BCE to 500 BCE onwards. And why the heads of the households they were performing these sacrifices? They were actually praying for well-being of the domestic unit of their family to which they belong, or which the family which they are heading. So they were performing all the sacrifices for the welfare, wishing for the welfare of the family. Also, the sacrifices became more elaborate with the emergence of new kings and kingdoms, as they tried to bring other territories in their control by symbolizing, by sending a symbol through means of mass sacrifices. That is, like we have Rajasuya sacrifice and Ashwamedha sacrifice. The Vedic era, which extended from 1000 BCE to and prevailed till 600 BCE, that included the Rig Veda, which was composed originally in Sanskrit, the Samaveda, the Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. And it was basically the Rig Veda which was compiled between 1500 to 1000 BCE, that is the Rig Vedic period. And in this Rig Veda, the various hymns in praise of different deities, especially the Agni, Indra, and Soma, these hymns are there included, and these hymns were composed and they are included in the Rig Veda. Also, when new ideas they were found and the Upanishads they were introduced and they were written, some new questions showing the curiosity of the people relating to the meaning of life, the possibility of life after the death, what after death, and the questions of rebirth. They were was rebirth related or associated with the past actions, or will everyone gets a rebirth, or if yes, then why so, and if not, then why so? So all these such questions, such causes, such issues, they were debated, and thinkers they were concerned with understanding and expressing its nature, and the ultimate reality according to them was death. And others who were not in the Vedic period or who were outside the Vedic tradition, that is, who were not following the Vedas, they asked whether there or not a single ultimate reality, that is death. If we are studying Vedas, Vedas are giving us the power, Vedas, using Vedas and chanting the mantras of Vedas, we can create healing power in ourselves, then why we are dying? This was the question which was being asked and questioned upon. So people also began speculations on the significance of the sacrificial tradition. If we are offering this sacrifice for the well-being, then why these natural calamities and famines they are taking place, and why our family members they are dying, even if we are performing this sacrifice collectively? So these debates and discussions they took place, and these debates and discussions they are mentioned in the 64 Buddhist texts, and there are 64 sects according to these Buddhist texts. That is, there are 64 schools or of thought, or they are known as a sect. There are 64 sects or the 64 schools of thought. In this, the teachers, they traveled from place to place preaching the people. The teachers, they tried to convince one another, and the lay persons, the teachers, they tried to bring about the, and they tried to convince the validity of the philosophy, or the way they understood the world. They tried to convince the people by giving the sermons, or they became the preachers, or they preached about the ultimate 64 sects or schools of thought which they knew, or in which they were particularly specialized. The debates, they took place in the hut with a pointed roof, that is Kutagar Shala, or the meetings they took place, or the debates they took place in grooves, where the mendicants or the traveling medicants, the traveling saints, they used to halt for a moment, for some time, to take a rest. And since the various people, they have various thoughts and various ideologies, so if a preacher, he succeeded in convincing one of the rivals, whatever followers the rival was having, if the rival leader was convinced, that ultimately means that the followers of the rival leader will also get convinced, and they also became disciples of the same philosopher. In this way, the philosophers, they increased their followers or disciples, and they created discipline. Some teachers, including Lord Mahavira and Lord Buddha, they also questioned the authority of the Vedas, and like we have seen and discussed in the previous text, that it was the Brahminical text. Veda is actually a Brahminical text written for Brahmins and written by Brahmins, whereas the Buddhist monks, whatever they have written, the written records, they are written in Pali or Prakrit language, and that was common language and easy to understand also. So it was basically, here we can see that Lord Mahavira and Lord Buddha, they also questioned about the authority of the Vedas. They also questioned and they also emphasized individual agency, that the men and women, they can attain liberation from the trials and tribulations of worldly existence. Whereas the Brahmins, they said that an individual's existence was determined by his or her birth in a specific caste or gender. But in case of teachings given by Lord Mahavira and Lord Buddha, they are saying that it is the human actions which are basically responsible, and which help to determine the status of a person. Then we have the message which was preached and given by Lord Mahavira. The basic philosophy of the Jainas, it was existing in North India before the birth of Vardhaman Mahavira. But it was this Vardhamana who came to be known as Lord Mahavira, the one of the 24 Tirthankaras. Tirthankar, that is those persons who guide men and women across the rivers of existence. So Vardhamana or Mahavira was one of the 24 Tirthankara, and the most important idea, that is the entire world is animated, सब रचना की हुई है, सब मिथ्या है, even the stones, the rocks and the water, they have life. Non-injury to living beings, especially to humans, animals, plants and insects. It is an important part of Jaina philosophy, because according to Jainism, we should not harm these living creatures, that is the humans, animals, plants and insects. And this central idea or central philosophy to not to harm these organisms, it was the principle of ahimsa, which is emphasized within Jainism. And this ahimsa, It left a mark on the Indian thinking as a whole. As we know, Gandhiji, he himself propagated and promoted the ahimsa. He took ahimsa as a weapon to fight against the British. So basically, according to Jaina teachings, the cycle of birth and rebirth is shaped through karma. Means हमारे कर्म हमारे जन्म और मृत्यु के इस साइकिल को, इस चक्र को चलाते हैं. द कर्मा इज द इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग विच अ पर्सन इज परफॉर्मिंग. सो इट वॉज द कर्मा दैट इज एक्चुअली गाइडिंग द साइकिल ऑफ बर्थ एंड रीबर्थ. ऑल्सो एसेस्टिसिज्म एंड पेनांस आर रिक्वायर्ड. यानी कि आपके मन में भक्ति और पेनेंस, यानी कि यदि आपसे कोई गलती होती है तो उस गलती के लिए जुर्माना भरना. सो asceticism and penance, they were required to free oneself from the cycle. अपने किए हुए कर्मों का प्रायश्चित यानी पेनेंस, जुर्माना यदि आप भर लेते हैं तो इससे आपको इस साइकिल से यानी जन्म और मृत्यु की इस चक्र से मुक्ति मिलेगी. यू विल बी फ्री फ्रॉम द साइकिल ऑफ दिस बर्थ एंड रीबर्थ. So it can be achieved by renouncing the world. That is, monastic existence became a necessary condition of salvation, यानी कि मोक्ष की प्राप्ति के लिए. जैना मॉन्क्स एंड नन्स दे टुक 5 vows. जो जैन मॉन्क्स थे यानी कि जो प्रीचर्स थे और जो नन होती थी यानी महिला भिक्षु, इन्होंने 5 vows यानी 5 सूत्री कार्यक्रम बताया. क्या? टू एब्सटेन फ्रॉम किलिंग, किसी को ना मारो. स्टीलिंग एंड लाइंग, चोरी करने से दूर रहो, झूठ मत बोलो. एंड टू ऑब्जर्व सेलिबेसी. सेलिबेसी का मतलब कि अपने आप को क्या करो, शांत रखो, अपने आप को दुनिया से दूर रखो, दुनिया की इस दिखावट भरी दुनिया से दूर रखो. एंड टू एब्सटेन फ्रॉम पोसेसिंग प्रॉपर्टी, और अपने नाम पर अपने पास संपत्ति का भंडारण यानी अपने पास संपत्ति जमा मत करो. So these were the basic teachings of Lord Mahavira, including the ahimsa, which was and which became one of the most powerful weapon of Gandhiji during the struggle for national freedom, national struggle. Now we have the Jainism. It is spread. This Jainism, it is spread from one part of India to other parts. That is, it spread from one region in India to other regions, and these Jaina texts, they were composed in Sanskrit, Tamil, Pali, Kannada and other regional languages. So this shows that Jainism, it was influencing the life of the people and it was prevalent in most parts of India. And due to strict devotion and discipline of the followers, it was able to spread and service and it was able to serve the people across the subcontinent. That's all we have in this video about the Buddha and the quest for enlightenment. We will discuss in the coming videos. Thank you and have a nice day.